192 of the 193 countries of UNO participated in the International Yoga Day this year. Yoga is that popular. Yoga is being in oneness with my own true inner being in oneness with the whole of humanity, and being in oneness with the one that is beyond creation, the one that we call transcendent. That is the power of yoga. Yoga is a methodized effort towards self perfection. It is our own hidden potential expressing itself to perfection by attaining this union of oneness. But, but the challenge is that when we try this union with the divine spirit, we become otherworldly. The understanding is that if I gain God, I lose life. And if I become too worldly in life, I lose God. The challenge is to attain the divine on this earth, in this life, through yoga. Sri Aurobindo explains that the movement of oneness is nature trying to realize her own perfection. It is a natural evolutionary process of intensifying our innate hidden powers so that we can receive the force of the divine mind that is to come. Yes, the divine mind that is to come. This is real. This is real for sure because we know that there is something beyond, that there is something beyond that makes us what we are. Now, though nature has her own way and rhythm of evolution in realizing her own perfection in us, yoga enhances the process. The method to acquire higher than mental life is the method and process of yoga. Yoga hastens the evolutionary process. Yoga is opening our instruments, that is, the body and mind, like the sails of a ship, to nature. It is using the energy of nature to surge ahead towards that union with the divine through evolution. Yes, yoga is opening our sails to nature. Now, there are different methods of yoga. For example, Hatha Yoga is through asanas and pranayama. It selects the body as its vital functioning. The vital functioning as its instruments for perfection. On the other hand, whereas Raja Yoga selects the mental being in its different parts. In yogic terms, this lever, as it is called, of the mental mind is called as a kundalini. The Raja Yoga process perfects the restless mind. It elevates it through concentration of the mental mind, the mental force, which leads to an ingathered stage of consciousness. This ingathered stage of consciousness is known as samadhi. Then there is the karma yoga, the bhakti yoga, the jnana yoga, the triple path of the works of love, of knowledge. And its method is, so to say, a commerce between the inner being, that is the human consciousness, and the divine consciousness. Now, in these methods of yoga that I have discussed, the center of yoga, the lore of yoga is the consciousness. We dive deep within and take recourse to the conscious soul to do our yoga. However, there is another yoga, the Tantra. We have in the Tantric conception the worship of energy. Now we call this energy as Shakti. This energy is a sole effective force for all attainment. The energy in the universe is known as the nature soul. The nature soul is central to Tantra, whereas in the other methods of yoga, it is the conscious soul. Now, Sri Aurobindo integrates the concept of the conscious soul and the nature soul and goes beyond. To simplify matters, he says the conscious soul is the will, and the other, faith, is the nature soul. Will is a substance of knowledge, the knowledge of a true inner being, the inner consciousness, whereas faith is a reflex of the truth that is in our nature. Deep within, we know that there is something truth, the absolute truth that is beyond. That is our nature. And the movement of nature is twofold. There is the lower nature and the higher nature. When the faith is covered with ignorance and it reflects as ignorance, that is the lower nature. But it is the higher nature that we aspire for. The higher nature, the faith of the higher nature, gets together with the will of the conscious soul, and then it culminates into life divine. That is the yoga of Sri Aurobindo, the integral yoga of Sri Aurobindo. Now, the passage from the lower nature to the higher nature is the aim of the yoga. This yoga requires colossal faith, absolute courage, unflinching patience, every experience with the outside world and within trifle or disastrous, repellent, suffering, or humiliating is a step to perfection. Every movement is a path to liberation. Every moment of a life is a way of realization. Every breath of ours is yoga. And so, Sri Aurobindo says, all life is yoga. Yes, all life is yoga. Such is the power of yoga that the kingdom of heaven is realized within and reproduced in the world outside of us. This yoga is absolute purity. It's beatitude and perfection. A perfection which will help reflect the divine in all humanity. The divine perfection attained by yoga is worthy of those who envision that God dwells concealed in humanity. Thank you. And now if you have any questions, please write it in the comment box. I will try to respond with the writings of Sri Aurobindo. Perhaps then you will realize that when tomorrow comes and all the countries of the world are in the path of integral yoga from their heart and soul, there will not be any more posters crying that humanity has failed.